Hello, live from Kearney, New Jersey in quarantine. This is an open convo to break stigma surrounding mental health. Woo, it's the first one of these. I was running a little tight on time today. It's a little tough to get in here, but we made it. I'm all hopped up on coffee, and I don't have a drink with me, so hopefully I don't get too dried out. What's up, Alexandria? Thank you so much for joining, and Alexis as well. Thank you. Mo, appreciate you. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thank you guys so much. What we're doing today is we're having an open conversation. We're going to have a special guest who's just tuning in now. His name is Juan, and he is a mental health advocate. And he has, actually, I'm going to let him introduce himself once he gets in here. So let me see if I can shoot him an invite. Boom. How do I do it? Cancel. No. I want to invite him. Let's see if I can do it. Boom. Go live. Boom. There it is. So, here we go. I just sent him the request. Once he pops in here, we'll get started. Here he comes. How you guys doing, by the way? Everybody out there tuning in. Hope you guys are staying safe. Hope you're taking care of yourselves out there, putting self-care as a priority. Conversation we're going to have. Let's see. Oh, I think he lost connection. I don't know what happened. But this is an open conversation. So if you guys want to talk about any particular... Oh, there he is. Any particular topic, I am down. We're going to start to focus around stigma surrounding weakness. I think that's going to be our first topic. Let's see if Juan makes it in this time. But the point of this whole thing is to be open. Hey, what's up, man? Well, he's frozen. You're frozen. Hold on. Oh, you're back. What's up, brother?
Am I back? Nothing much, man. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing great, man. We're out here buffering all the time. Sushant, thank you for joining. You back? You're cutting in and out a little bit, brother.
Let me see. Are we good?
I think we're good.
Let's see. Hopefully.
Yeah, you're staying loud and clear.
Okay.
So, nice. So, Juan is an old friend of mine. We go way back. We've been on vacation together. Good times.
Definitely good times.
And you are a mental health advocate, and now that you're unfrozen.
Yeah. We'll make this work one way or another.
Yeah, we'll get through this, man. If the live feed doesn't work out, we'll do a text thing. It's all good. But I want you to let the people know like what your background is with mental health. How does that relate to your life?
So pretty much, hopefully it doesn't freeze again. I've been working for the past about 9 years at Rutgers Behavioral Healthcare. I work in an administrative position, but generally I've been able to work and connect with a lot of good people who have been in the field for over 30 years. And it's something that's definitely has impacted me throughout the years because I've seen firsthand what mental health is and how it impacts society as a whole. It's something that maybe recently has been brought to the forefront of what people are going through and something that we should be paying attention to. But for years past, that hasn't been the case. So when I found out you were doing this, I said, you saw the message that I sent you. I was like, hey, man, we should do a collaboration. Because recently I also work at T-Mobile. A lot of my friends over there, a lot of the guys, it's something that we've always talked about consistently about not just mental health, but we've also talked about men's mental health. And that's been a big part of what our friendship has been about and how we can actually get through it. So, that's why I'm here, man. It's great to talk to you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Hey, thank you for being open. That's the whole thing about this, about the stigma, is being able to be open and be able to talk about it, because there's so many people, there's so many different ideas about what mental health is, who it's for, who psychiatry is
Right.
for, and it's preventing us from taking care of ourselves and
Exactly.
getting the tools that we need. So I just want to shout thank you to Shushat, to Electra, thank you to Susanna, thank you to everybody who's tuning in. And just remind you guys, this is an open convo on mental health. We're here to break stigma. We're here to talk about it because that's the first step into making a difference in society.
Right.
So thank you so much for joining us. I think one of the topics we wanted to look at is the stigma of weakness. A lot of people feel like mental health care is weakness. If you're dealing with a mental health issue, that it's a sign of weakness.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that? Are mental health issues a sign of weakness?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. One of the things that I can say, especially coming from a Hispanic background, a lot of times growing up, when you would go through things, in other words, you would feel sad, you would feel like some event traumatized you. Mental health has can be brought on by so many different things. It could be PTSD, it could be a traumatic event, it could be a chemical imbalance in our own selves. That doesn't make you different or weaker than the next person. If anything, it can actually empower you and make you stronger. What do I mean by that? Well, growing up, to talk about mental health was something taboo. Instead, if someone was going through a situation which could be considered a mental health situation, it would be categorized as you're being spoiled, you're being a brat. Everybody talks about that crazy uncle or aunt, right? And then they're not really crazy. They actually might be going through something that they
Yeah,
can't come out and talk about because they're afraid of being categorized or labeled. For example,
right.
one thing that I learned in working in mental health is we don't call people who come in, we don't call them patients, because patients would kind of imply that they're sick, and they're not. We call them
Hmm.
clients, we call them consumers. Why? Because it's something that can with therapy, with medication, it can be helped. You can help that cause. So do I consider it a weakness? No, I actually consider it a tool that if you actually are able to overcome it, you can use it to help other people. So
Yeah,
it's
I
just really
agree.
funny. Yeah.
Dude, I agree 100%. That's interesting that you call them clients and you don't refer to them as patients. That's interesting. I haven't heard that being used before, that state of mind. But 100% I agree. It is not a form of weakness. It's actually something that a lot of us are dealing with. Like a majority of people are dealing with mental health issues and they're just not talking about it.
Right.
And the reason to me why it's not a weakness is the fact that we're here talking about it now. Me personally, I've dealt with stuff. I thought, I had reached the bottom. I thought I was going to end things for myself. And I've talked to a lot of people who have also been down at the bottom of the barrel there. And the fact that we're still here talking about it means that that mental illness is something that we're battling and we're overcoming.
Right.
We're showing endurance by still being here. So to me, if you're someone out there who's battling with mental health issues, you're a warrior. You're
Yeah.
a fighter. You're a survivor. Because you're still here, you know? So I think that mental health issues are definitely a sign of endurance. They're a sign of strength.
One of the
And when we start
hardest,
getting ourselves
you
better
know,
for it,
to
we can
piggyback off
make a
what you're
difference.
saying, one of the hardest things to admit is admitting that you're depressed, admitting that you're sad, admitting that things aren't going the way that you want them to. And that's the first step. If you can get to the point where you say, you know what, I'm not where I should be, I don't feel okay, but I want to get better. You, that person, us, me, you, should really say, you know what, I'm grateful that I was able to make that assessment about myself. I'm grateful that I'm actually willing. Like, it's no different than someone that looks themselves in the mirror, possibly overweight, possibly a lot of bad habits, and turns around and says, I'm going to change this, and then starts working on the solution. Now, one thing is saying things aren't well, and then, all right, what am I going to do? Another thing, I'm just going to go back to my old habits. That doesn't work. But to actually sit there and say, hey, you know what? I don't really like the way that I look right now. Let me do something about it. Let me start eating healthy. Let me go to the gym. Let me start just changing my mindset on how I view food. Nobody would sit there and say, you know what, man, you're really weak for feeling that way. You're you're
Yeah.
you're no good, man. You're a second class citizen for trying to change your life around. Absolutely not. On the contrary, people around them, friends, family, strangers would say, hey, good for you. Good for you for getting to that point. Good for you for realizing that. I didn't want to tell you, but good for you for making those steps. So for us to sit here and actually talk about it, which I appreciate, man. You starting the page, you really trying to reach out to a broader uh, population, a broader audience. It's great because right now we've been there to the point where we're like, you know what, things aren't the way they should be, and we have to change it. And what
Yeah.
I love that you're doing, and what I always like to do with my friends and anybody who will listen is, hey, it's okay to admit that you want to have a better quality of life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for those of us who are fighting, we deserve a better quality of life because we're putting effort in to take care of ourselves, to maintain, to soldier on. So we deserve whatever we give. That's one of the mindset tools that we use in this thing that we're creating out here. And I just want to shout out again to Jen and to Fatima. Thank you guys so much, you gals, for joining. Just want to make sure I acknowledge people because a lot of times we feel like
Of
we're
course,
overlooked,
of course,
you know?
of course.
So
There's a
I just
reason
want
why
to
people
say,
are joining.
yeah, say what's up to those guys and let you know also we are still open. This is open conversation, so feel
Yeah.
free
Any
to ask
questions? Yeah.
questions or make comments. And yeah, so we were talking about that. A lot of people don't mention it. I know growing up with my background, I don't know if it's mostly cultural or, I don't know what influenced it, but with my background, with my upbringing, I was under the impression that therapy is something for loony people, like woo, like crazy
Hmm.
people who are like screaming on the street and like waving their arms. Like that's who goes to therapy. That's what I was kind of raised with that viewpoint. So when I started dealing with things for myself, um, and I realized I needed help because I wasn't going to be able to do this completely alone.
Hmm.
Um, that's something that had to change. And I don't know if did you have that experience as well? Were you raised with kind of that upbringing that mental health is not for everyone? It's just for
Yes.
like
So
one.
there's a couple of factors. I think it's a society that we live in. The one point that I wanted to mention is you and I. I don't know the people who have joined us. I don't know if they live in the States. Maybe they live abroad. Um, but we kind of have everything accessible to us. We have everything, every material thing. So that goes into standard of living. There's probably literally nothing that if we don't set our minds to, that we can't afford. And a lot of times it's, all right, you have everything. You have, you could be living somewhere else where these things aren't afforded to you. So why are you so sad? You're being ungrateful. And that's not the focus of that is wrong. The focus shouldn't be on, well, why are you being ungrateful or why are you not appreciating those things? That's one of the worst things you can tell someone. So going off of the question you told me, getting older, you know, cultural, family, I would include, some people based on their religion that they are, that said that, you should just have faith. And listen, that's great. It's great to have a faith in something or someone. That's fantastic. But sometimes, going what you're saying, Tim, you need a little more. Some people might need a little more, and that's okay. Trying to
Yeah.
piggyback, trying to say what, like going back to the fitness thing. When you go to the gym and you're trying to lift these heavy weights, what do you have? A spotter. You're not doing it alone.
Yeah.
You might be able to lift that weight on your own, but you know what? It's always nice to have that one person say, "You got it, man. Keep going. I'm right behind you." If things go sour and the weights start coming down on you on the bench press, it's okay because I'll be there and I'll pick it up for you. So same thing with mental health. Listen, can we possibly do it alone? Maybe. Should we have
Yeah.
to do it alone? No.
Not at all. We always talk about how we're capable alone of handling our stuff, but we're so much more capable with support. Because also, I just before we get too far gone from this comment, Mo Bro 17 said In my culture, they make you believe that you have no faith in God. So it's very similar. And that's if someone's dealing with mental health. So it's kind of along the same lines as what you were saying. Within certain religious backgrounds, they tell you that it's faith alone. You know, they kind of push that all you need to do is trust in your faith or trust in God, and then just carry on,
Right.
and things will get better. But the truth is, we were given brains, right? We were given a body, and we were given free will, if that's what you believe. So, oh, I think I lost him. He froze. Let's wait for him to unfreeze. Should be a second now.
Okay.
Are you
I think we're good.
unfrozen? Okay. All right. Yeah. So even if you believe that what you need is faith, you absolutely do need faith. And we're looking at a dashboard. I don't know what happened. But
I'm looking at a dashboard
but
too.
you still have a brain, you still have free will, and you still have the ability to use that brain and free will to find tools and avenues to help yourself.
Right.
As an example, just like a really basic example, when you have a killer migraine, even if you have faith, you still take a Tylenol. You still do something for yourself to get rid of that migraine. We don't just pray for the migraine to go away.
Right.
You know, you might pray for it to go away faster, but then you take some medicine, or you do something to alleviate that problem. And shout out to Alyssa Chris, to Dylan Alexandra, and Dylan Cafirio. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate the support. This is an open convo, so feel free to add. And we were just talking about how faith sometimes can make us believe that we don't need to take action.
Yeah.
That's kind of the theme, right?
You know, one of the cool things is you're not bound to just one avenue of therapy. You're not bound to just one solution. There's so many different things, and you can use it in conjunction. So you can use exercise. We were talking about this yesterday. You can use exercise. You can use music. You can use, I know, for example, Mobro, he's a DJ and he gets lost in the music, right? I know, for example, Dylan, just logged on. These are two of my buddies. Dylan loves the gym, you know, and we all have our faith. Why can't you use 1, 2, 3, 4 different things to get you to the point that you want to be at? And that's what's great is we're at a point where, as adults, nobody prepared us for this. Nobody prepared us for adulthood. Nobody prepared us for taxes. Nobody prepared us for all this stuff, right? And we laugh about it and stuff, but you know, life burns you out if you're not prepared for it, and you're not prepared for what life throws your way. Like Tim, when we went on vacation, life was a lot different than what it is now. But you know what? That's when you really start evolving as a person, where you really start adapting to the situations. And if you think that the way that you were, or I was when I was 18, or I was 21, or I was 25, now I'm 31, that the same solutions that I had back then are going to work now? Absolutely not. But at the same time, okay, those things don't work anymore. What's going to help me now? So, you know, you're 100% right. There's so many different reasons on why we feel or have these ideas on how we should view mental health, but it's okay to change that way that we feel about it, the way that we think about it.
Yeah, and I'm totally in agreement with you. We'll just address this. The real Alexandria said, exercise is my strongest tool to fight depression. That's awesome. If you found that that is what's working most for you, then that's fantastic. And I'm glad to hear that you have that in your life. We're all on different journeys, and we all have different things that we're going to connect a little more to that are going to be more or less effective in our personal path back to better mental health. And as Juan was saying, there's nothing wrong with taking a multifaceted approach, because more often than not, there's more than one reason why you're depressed. There's more than one thing that happened that influenced you to get you to this position. So it makes sense to try different avenues and different ways, maybe all together, to see what works to alleviate the situation that you're currently in. And you mentioned music. Music was tremendous for me early on in my recovery stages. I was singing in karaoke bars every night, because just getting it out, just being able to express myself in a way through song where people were not judging me like based on my words, you can put your emotion, you can vent your emotion out into music,
Hmm.
and people will respond to it in a positive way. They'll connect to it. And that was very powerful for me in my life before I got into the whole boxing side of things. That was a whole nother level of progress for me. But definitely there are a ton of avenues, and it's cool to explore them all.
I
So
think that well, I've always known you to be a singer, and you did have a fantastic voice. So kudos to
thanks,
you.
man.
Well, here's that's the interesting part. So 10 years ago, you would sing as a hobby, as a pleasure, right? And
Yeah.
who would have thought that present day you were using that for therapy? So
Yeah, dude.
when you find yourself, for example, there's people that are good artists. They know how to paint, they can sculpt, they do different things. Maybe that was your hobby years ago when you were a teenager, early adulthood. Who's to say that you can't use that now as a form of therapy to escape the things that you're going through now? Maybe escape is the wrong word because you shouldn't run away from it, but use it as something that helps you cope with what you're
Yeah,
going
as
through
an
during present
outlet.
time. Exactly. Like I use
It's like,
exercise. I don't sing. If I sing right now, we're gonna lose all our viewers, and it's gonna get
yeah, I don't want to hear this
the
again.
IG is gonna get IG is gonna get flagged. Your page is gonna get flagged, and it's just gonna be a bad time. But I will use working out as a way to get to be able to deal with the stressors that are going on in my life. I mean, COVID has kind of put a wrench in that a little bit, but I
Yeah,
was going to the gym for like an hour and just running for an hour, maybe watching my show, but just getting away for a little bit and then being able to get the chemicals out, like the endorphins, the dopamine, the rush from
yeah,
actually working out. So yeah. Oh, Dylan said that my
yeah.
voice is angelic. That's a lie. That is a fabrication of the truth. But that's
I
why I keep
just
them
want
around.
to touch on XOJR mentioned the adrenaline, dopamine, and all these other feel good chemicals in the brain is what cures depression. That's totally true. A lot of people have a imbalance in dopamine or an imbalance in serotonin, that feel good, that happy hormone in the brain. And the way that you bring those back up is different for everybody. Some people use medication to do it, some people use different outlets, like we were saying, singing, exercise. Those things give us a dopamine release in our brain. And because it's a reward system, we put some effort into it, we get a reward, we get a good feeling, and that helps pump that hormone back into the brain. So thank you for that. And karaoke and dancing definitely helped me cope from a weary warrior. Yeah, me too. I love karaoke, and that's Alexis at a weary warrior. She has a beautiful singing voice. So
You guys got to get
when this whole
together
thing goes up, we got to get back out there and hit that karaoke circuit hard.
at a social distancing level, please.
Yeah, I mean, as this thing cools down, hopefully we don't have to wear the mask, man. That's going to be a bummer.
Yeah,
But,
bro.
yeah, so there's all different avenues. One thing I wanted to talk about is a lot of people feel like as a man that it's you're not a real man if you've got mental health issues. It's not manly to talk about your problems. It's not manly to feel these types of emotions like depression or sadness. How do you feel about that? What's your input?
That is a tough subject for me. It's a sensitive subject for me. A lot of the guys that are on here right now, they know that. Listen, mental health is mental health. Obviously being a man, it's something that I've spoken a lot about. I've had a lot of long conversations about this. Um, the highest suicide rates are in men, statistically speaking. So it's not like me just saying this. It's actually true. Um, a lot of the most riskful jobs, the risk taking jobs, are done by men. You know, um, and we're part of a culture, a society that doesn't really take a lot of those things into account. Now, it's actually funny, and I'm actually kind of guilty of that. I have two little girls. You know this. I have two girls, and I cater to them. I take my time with them, and I've always joke around, and I say that if I had a son, I'd be a lot tougher on him. I wouldn't let certain things slide. I wouldn't be as patient. And that's actually, that's a mentality that has to be changed. Men's
Yeah, that's
men's mental health is something that needs to be focused on because men are taught from a very young age to suppress their feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can give you a case in point. Look, I love my mother to death. She's a great woman. She raised me, but I just remember as a kid, if I had a concern or a complaint and I voiced it, my mom would tell me to shut up. You know, she's like, "Be a man.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't want to hear it."
Yeah, man.
And you know what?
That's the thing.
That
Man, what does that mean? That
I
means
don't know what
feel
I honestly
feel
don't know
stuff.
what that means. Like I it took me a while to admit that when my daughter was born, like I cried. Like I would tell maybe my closest friends, but like I was like, is this weird that I like would cried and then snot's coming out of my nose and nobody could tell because I was just so emotional, so emotional about it. It's it's something that we go through every day and we're like, am I allowed, like Tim, am I allowed to tell you right now, I'm afraid with this pandemic. I'm afraid about my job, how I'm going to provide for my family. Am I allowed to say that? Or am I like, you know what, Bucko? Just got to tighten up and just go to work, or you better make it happen somehow. And
Mm.
that's not right. That's not right because everybody deserves to be able to express what they're feeling inside and be able to be acknowledged for that. So one thing is
Yes.
saying like, hey, I'm sad. It's okay for somebody to say, hey, you're human. You're allowed to feel that emotion. Like, is it because
Yes,
is it
absolutely.
because I'm a man? I'm not allowed to feel. You know, everybody has insecurities. As a man, am I allowed
Yeah.
to have insecurities? Am I allowed to be like, you know what? I don't like this, or I don't like the way I feel. Like, is that okay? That's one of the things that we deal with on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And let me just backtrack a little bit here.
Yeah, we got
And
a
I
few things.
touch on, we got a lot of comments coming in to Holisticris. Holisticris is a wellness coach out
Yes.
there, and she's got a ton of powerful tools that we can use, free tools that we can use to help ourselves. And one of the things she always says is you have to feel it to heal it. So we can't be out here suppressing things because we're worried about society or the way people are going to view them. We have to be able to talk. We have to be able to feel our feelings so that we can make progress as people. So thank you, Holisticris, for that. And then the real Alexandria, as a woman, I think a man who is aware of his mental health and actively working on himself is an amazing trait.
Awesome.
Thanks. I think that a lot of men need to hear that, Alexandria. I feel like that's something you should be shouting from the rooftops. I'm
Yes.
not, I'm not
Yes.
saying to do it now, but maybe when the time is right, a lot of men need to hear that
And you know what?
because
And I have to say this. One of the disheartening things about that is that's the exception to the rule. You don't really see that too often. I mean, it is an amazing trait, and I'm on board with that. I'm sure a lot of people are on board with that, but not everyone is, and not everyone sees it that way.
yeah,
So
but
it's
but
great
that's
that
a
you
lot of
mentioned that.
that because of this stigma, though. That's
Yeah,
the whole thing. Like
yeah.
that's the whole point of like this. We got to break that stigma so we can start learning the truth about how people actually feel, and then we can do something with it. We can do something about it. Um, From a weary warrior, it's deemed as not masculine, which is a toxic way of thinking. Yeah, this masculinity, there is a toxic side to that masculine complex that's being pushed into
Exactly.
society. And that's what we're here to break right now. Um, and then realize Alexandria, my sister's best friend's like that. And it's amazing when she tells me the stories about him communicating on that level. Many men afraid of, yep, just reiterating the point. You're totally allowed to be afraid. Absolutely. We all need love. From Jay, yes. Love, self-love. Let's just talk about love for a second. Self-love. Just for a second, because I've been in love. I'm just saying, and it was a codependent type of love. It was
Not
that
good.
type of love that we read about in books where you find your other half and now you're complete,
Right.
right? That was the mentality that was kind of handed on to me and I believed in. And that's actually a dangerous mentality when it comes to love because the truth is you're a complete person on your own.
Right.
You could be happy, you should be happy on your own before you match up with someone and try to offer happiness to them. You've got to be happy alone. You've got to be complete alone. So when it comes to love, self-love is the love that conquers all. Just in response to Jay's comment there, we all need love. Self-love's that one that we need in order to succeed and make progress. And
It's
then the
essential.
additional, yeah, self-love is essential. Absolutely. That's the word.
One of the
And
things that
then,
you always realize, like when it comes to like relationships, you find someone who says, like, for example, I'm going to say one significant other to the other. I'm not saying which gender to which because it goes both ways. So it's like if the significant other says, you're beautiful or you're handsome, the other one is like, yes, yes, I am. But let's say the other significant other is having a bad day and says something he shouldn't say or she shouldn't say. And it's like, you suck. And it's like, oh, I'm a terrible person. That's so dangerous to someone's mental health. It's, one of the biggest things is when you can get to the point where you're like, no one has to tell me who I am because I know who I am. And let's say somebody
Yeah,
comes and says, hey, Tim, I love the beard, but you love your beard already. It's, hey, thank you. But if you're going away
yeah,
from that and saying, like, I have a good beard because Juan says that I have a good beard, that's very, very dangerous. And like you said, like that codependency. Because what happens if you
yeah,
take away that 50%? Who are you?
yeah. That's the thing. People go into a deep depression. People commit suicide because they lose that person that they believe makes them complete.
Right?
They forget that they were born complete, you know? So, yeah, absolutely. I agree with that sentiment 100%. Just scanning over. Thank you, Sam, for joining. Thank you, Barzication, for joining. And there are women, yep. There are people perpetuating this issue on both sides, men and women. And to Fatima, a great support system is very important. Yes, absolutely. And yeah, we're already complete. And what was I going to say? I got a little sidetracked.
Talking a lot of good things,
What were
man.
we
That's
talking
why
about?
it's an open discussion. That's why we want the questions and we want the
Yeah,
comments coming in. So
a lot of good stuff. We were talking about codependency.
while you get your thought together, I did want to say something. I don't even know if she's still on here. My boss actually, my supervisor from Rutgers actually logged on. I don't know if she can send the
Oh,
comment real
nice.
quick and just let me know that she's still here because I did want to talk about her a little bit. One of the most awesome things about her, one of the things that I respect about her is she knows who she is. She always has. And I always enjoy the fact that she's very secure in who she is. And I'm sure she has her good days and I'm sure she has her bad days, but she always is at the forefront of making sure that people stand up for themselves and know their rights. And she's always had my back in that sense. So I'm happy that she logged on. I don't know if she's still on. Maybe she just came in to check in, see what was going on. But if there's one thing that I also say about mental health is you have to be, once you start building off of the fact that you want to get better as a person, you have to be able to vocalize and not be afraid to stand behind your feelings. Because one thing
Yeah,
is, you can talk about it, Tim. Like you can say, "Hey, I've been feeling sad," or "Hey, you know what? I've been a little depressed and stuff." But if somebody's gonna come and try to put you down, and you're not willing to stand up for that feeling that you had,
yeah,
it doesn't go anywhere. So to be able to acknowledge yourself, fantastic. But you also have to be able to back up your feelings and be able to say, you know what, whether you acknowledge me or not, this is who I am and this is what I'm going through. So
yeah.
that's one thing. And I think one of the things you wanted to talk about was medication, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. So the stigma, there's a lot of stigma surrounding medication on, it's unhealthy, it's chemicals you're putting in your body, it's dangerous. A lot of people feel like we shouldn't take medication, we should look for natural, homeopathic remedies to our
Right.
problems. And so I'm going to tell you my opinion,
Go for
right?
it.
Everyone's free to have their opinion. It's a free, it's a free world. We're all allowed to think whatever we want to think and handle our lives the way we choose. We can choose to take medication or avoid medication. That's your personal choice. I want to tell you how I feel, but first, I want to get your opinion. How do you feel about medication?
I think it's great. So I'll put it to you.
It's
No,
great.
the way I kind of worded it kind of sounds like I want all the medication in the world. Listen,
Yeah.
things that I talked about, we talked about depression, we talked about upbringing, we talked about PTSD, we talked about traumatic events, we talked about chemical imbalances. Hey, that's, our bodies aren't perfect, things like that. The one
Yeah.
thing that I'll say is medication, if you need it, is not taboo and it doesn't make you a bad person for taking it. You mentioned the migraine situation. You mentioned the fact that, like, let's just talk honest here. If they find the tumor and it's cancerous, you're not
Yeah.
gonna sit there and say, My body should be able to beat this.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
not, and I'm not going to take medication because you know what, body, you suck, and you should be helping me out. And the fact that you can't do this, you know what, I'm going to make your life miserable until it doesn't work that way. So why is it that if you do need medication to help you out, if you do need something, like for example, people that suffer from ADHD, they have 100,000 thoughts racing through their mind, and they can't bring it all together. Why can't you take something that has been researched, scientifically researched, that can help you, just bring it all together?
Yeah,
There's nothing taboo
absolutely.
about it. I mean, it's literally taking a Tylenol extra strength because you have cramps or because you have a headache or because you just blew out your back like I did earlier today shaking the orange juice. Like there's nothing wrong with that. So, I mean, my opinion of
Yeah.
medication, totally for it if needed. I mean, I'm obviously against the abuse of medication. I am against the
Yes.
dependency or of medication in the sense that I'm just taking it because it's my crutch. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with if
Right.
I don't have this, like for example, let's talk about briefly people who smoke marijuana for anxiety issues. It helps, but you're
Yeah.
using it as a supplement, not as the reason why you're calm now. That's the way that I kind of see it. That's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, it depends on your mindset. We have like a growth and progress mindset. So I feel like medication is a powerful tool that if we want to use that along our way, along our journey, as long as we continue with a mindset that I'm going to do things for myself, I'm going to try things and find out what works.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with combining therapies too. We can combine homeopathic with medication and see what's more effective for us. I just want to touch on these comments because they're pretty serious. To Fatima, yeah, sometimes we need it. Sometimes it's a matter of life and death in the moment, and you need it at that moment to make it to the next step where you can start to take care of yourself.
Right.
And to a weary warrior, she said, my ex-husband needed medication, but the downside was when he could no longer receive it, stuff got real.
And
Um,
to actually go off of that, this is why mental health needs to be brought to the forefront of what's going on in this country and around the world. Because these medications, these therapies, they need to be accessible to everyone. There should be no reason why someone says, I can't afford my medication for XYZ because it's too cost prohibitive.
yeah,
Not trying to get into politics or anything, but just the fact that we need to be able to make this accessible to people because it could somebody could be taking medication because they have insurance, or somebody could be taking medication because they have a job, but then they lose their job and now they can't afford that 70, $100, $1,000 medication for whatever reason,
yeah,
and it's a going off what she's saying, he needed it but he wasn't able to get it, and then stuff got real. So it's something that
yeah.
we need to be bringing awareness, because the only thing that's going to help people is awareness, whether you're the person who's going through the situation or if you're the person who's supporting that person going through the situation.
Yeah. And you don't know, like with this conversation that we're having right now, maybe someone tunes in from the medical field who's in a position to make a difference. And they're hearing, when we get together as a community and we start having a voice, that's when we can make a change. That's when we can actually impact society. So by doing this, by keeping open conversation and talking about medication, we can actually create change in our environment. We can do this. We can fuel that movement. And one of the things I'm doing with the bag is this thing behind me is a powerful mental health tool.
Yeah.
To those who have used it before, they know it to be true. There's people, there's celebrities who've used it. There are therapists that use it in their practice. It's just not widely known that how effective this is at fighting depression specifically. So my dream is to have this freely available to everyone who needs it, because it's something you can do for yourself. It doesn't take long, 10 minutes a day or even a shorter amount of time a day when it's consistent and you stick to it and you keep track of it, can actually change the way that your mind and body handles stress, the way that your mind and body handles depression. So it's
Right.
a really powerful tool. And I'm doing my best to get it out to as many people as possible. I opened my home here for people to train for free before the whole COVID thing, and that
Right.
was going well. Now that we have the COVID, I have a live shadowboxing session at night where we're rolling in other mental health tools into the training to make it a super effective kind of mental health training program. So, but my dream ultimately is to create a charity that will set up gyms across the globe where you can walk in with a doctor's note that says you have depression, and your insurance will cover your treatment of exercise, daily exercise every day on the back. That's my dream.
Yeah.
That's what I want
That's
everywhere.
great.
That and as a sub dream, like what I have to do first is build this in a way that I can sustain myself and support my family.
Right.
And then I can grow it and create this charitable organization.
No,
Because
that's
if I
great,
start
dude.
with a charity, I'll be given at my expense. And that's something we try to talk about, healthy boundaries and making mutually beneficial decisions for yourself. Because a lot of us were raised with that give mentality where we try to please everyone else. We try to take care of everybody else except for ourselves.
Yeah.
And what I want people to change their mind with this is that we can do both. We can take care of ourselves in a way that takes care of others. We can take care of ourselves in a way that inspires others to do the same thing, just by example.
Tim,
So,
you know what's funny? It's like we're whoever's on here, the people, we're no good to anyone dead. We're not. We're
yeah,
no
no,
good to
not at
anybody.
all.
You know, we're not good to anybody if we're not like it's that's just the clear cut and dry. So if people are gonna get the 100% of us, of every, who we are, we have to, and we mentioned this earlier, self-love. We have to be willing to give back and invest time in ourselves. A lot, like you
Yeah,
said, a lot of times we find ourselves, whether it's family, whether it's friends, hey, can you do this for me? Hey, I need that. Hey, I'm having a situation. And a lot of times we're like, hey, you know what? You hear all the time that one that, we're like, I'm that friend that everybody comes to.
yeah,
Growing up, I heard it all the time. And you hear,
mm,
I'm that friend that everybody depends on. Or, as time went on, I asked myself, I said, well, what about you? Who do you go
yeah,
to? If your
yeah,
friends, if your family has all these issues going on, if your friends have all these critical events, situations going on, that means that you probably go to them, tell them something, and they're just like, yeah, 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 okay. But who are you going to? Who's your support
yeah,
system? So, like you said, that punching bag you have in the back, that's a form of medication right there. That's a way
yeah,
of you saying, you know what, I'm gonna give back to myself. But what you're doing now is you're going live on IG. So now you're giving back to yourself, but you're also giving back to others because you're letting other
yeah.
people hop on that.
That's the thing, man. That's my whole deal now for the rest of my life. That's why I made this a lifelong dedication. I'm going to be here every single night until I'm dead for the rest of my life,
Well, hopefully
until
that's a
depression is
very,
wiped
very
out.
long time. So you're good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm 35. I'm just about 35. So I should still
And you
have a
look like
decent
you're
amount
like
of time left.
24, barely. It's because of
Even
the
with the
beard.
beard, man, I'm
Please,
doing my best.
Jesus, bro. I don't know, man. Dylan ended up shaving his beard. I don't know if he's still on. He ended up shaving his beard, but he might have given you a little run for your money, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a pretty
Yeah.
solid beard. You still look like I would ID you. I would ID you.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. For karaoke,
I
I
don't
would,
know.
if the song is explicit, I would have to tell you can't sing it, brother.
Yeah. Yeah. It is what it is, man.
Good for you.
But
Good
it's all
genetics.
good. Yeah. It's fine. I'm happy about it. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time.
So let
Is
me
what
let
it
me ask
is.
you something, if you don't mind me asking something.
Yeah, go
What
ahead.
what have in this journey of mental health and acknowledging how critical it is, how important it is, what stigmas have you encountered, like recently? I know that growing up, we have somewhat of a similar background. We've heard certain things, but recently, like, what type of I want to actually just say this, like, what type of ignorant stigma have you encountered with other people?
Well, nowadays, I kind of cut stigma out like as soon as it happens, it's addressed and squashed because I'm very much aware of what I'm doing right now is the right thing, both for me and for everybody who's been involved in it. This is like a mutually beneficial path. I always say that. Holistic Chris knows if she's still here. In 2019, I said the rest of my life is going to be mutually beneficial. That's what it's about. I'm going to change my mentality from me and I to us. us
Right.
mentality. So I've come across just a little bit of stigma, I think, from haters. There's haters out there, and the way you squash stigma is with education. The way you squash stigma is by being vocal about it and letting people know, like, the truth, the real truth. Forget opinions don't mean anything. All right, everybody has their own opinion, everybody has their own life experience that shaped them into who they are today, and is responsible in large part for how they act and how they react to situations. And that life experience is unique to every individual person. So if you came to me and you were angry about something that I don't understand, that's totally okay. You can have your opinion. Oh, we lost him. Let's see if he comes
All
back.
right, I'm
There
here.
he is. I don't know where you lost me, but what I was saying is that you squash the stigma with accurate information. You
Yeah.
squash the stigma with truth, because the stigma is actually based on BS. It's based on stuff that people heard and passed down, and it's BS. It's ideals that are not reality, not based in truth. So someone came into my DMs and was like, "Oh, you're not why don't you learn some boxing skills, or you have no boxing skills?" And I was like, that's not what it's about. We're out here fighting for mental health.
Yeah.
We're out here making progress every day, fighting for ourselves to build up our self-confidence, our self-esteem, and our self-validation. And we're making progress every day. So if you don't have anything to add and you don't have anything to learn from being here, then you honestly don't belong here, because this place is for people who want to learn, grow, and make progress, not stay ignorant and fall behind. So that's how you squash stigma. Stigma is based on ignorance. That's it. If the person wants to educate themselves, you can educate them. If they don't, that's their decision. Let them go on. If they're not moving forwards in life, they're going to be falling behind.
And
It has nothing to do with us.
that's such a good point too, because sometimes and a lot of times what ends up affecting us is the people who are closest to us. If there's a random stranger walking across the street and they say something, you can say, you know what, whatever, you brush it off your shoulder. But sometimes the people that are closest to us, the people that we encounter on a daily basis, will make a comment and try to set us back. And you may not be, you know what, you can spend an eternity trying to change their mindset and their opinion, and they may not want to. They may never do it. And that's where you have to make the conscientious decision of whether you want to stay as close to that person as you once were. You cut the fat, as they say. You cut the fat off, and then you try to get to the meat of it all. Like what you were doing, right? You said the guy went into your DMs, or that person went into your DMs, was saying like, "Oh, hey, you learn how to box," and it kind of made me laugh, because those little like workshops where you can go and you can paint and you can drink some wine and paint. Imagine the person
Yeah.
who's hosting the event comes over to you after you painted your sun and your beach setting, right? Your little sunset. And they're like, "Wow, you really suck at this. Like, you do not know how to
Yes.
paint to save your life." And you're like, "Wow, now I feel like a piece of crap." Why? Because the point of you actually going there with your friends was to get away for a little bit, to relax, have a good time, socialize a little bit. It wasn't to see, paint some Picasso painting, like it wasn't for you to be an artist. The purpose, like you said, the purpose is you're doing what you're doing to try to become a better person out of it. And if someone
Yeah.
can admire that and respect that, then you know what? You're still welcome in my life. If you can't, well, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't be part of our lives. Maybe, like you said,
Absolutely.
maybe you stumbled the wrong Instagram page, because you're not
Yes.
selling professional classes here. You're just trying to help people with mental health.
So I want to dip back into these comments, but
Go
first
ahead.
I'm just going to say a really big part of the mindset is when you train like this for a while, after you've been consistent with it,
Hmm.
it builds up this internal validation. And instead of the world around you affecting your emotions, you affect the world around you. You get to change your environment. You get to choose the people that you're surrounded by. You get to choose the place you're at, the things that you're viewing, the music you're listening to. You get to make a conscious decision as to, is this beneficial to me? Because I'm putting myself first now.
Right.
I'm not giving up my life for everybody else's opinion and what everybody else wants from me. I am now living for myself, and I know it's good because it's having a positive impact on not just my life, but other people's lives. So I always kind of tell people that on this journey, if you stick to it, that's the kind of foundation that you can expect without words, without me telling someone this. If they were just to do this consistently for a decent amount of time, that foundation would build in them, and it's something automatic. So I just want to go back real quick to Holistic Chris, being vulnerable and telling our stories, act as inspiration for others to do the same, and show them that they're not alone. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's the point of being open. So many people feel like they're alone, and they don't realize that but there are a lot of us going through very similar situations. And if the situation's not the same, the consequences are the same. The emotions, the feelings that we encounter, the pressure that we receive from family, friends, religion, society, jobs, whatever, that pressure, it's pressure all around. It's the same. You know, your circumstance might be different, but our feelings, how we handle it is the same. And people have been the same at a core level for a really long time. And therapists have studied people, and they now have tools to help you get out of your situation, because the feelings are the same, which means the tools to squash them are the same tools. We just need to empower ourselves with information, and then we can start making progress again.
Right. It takes time. One thing that I was mentioning,
Yeah,
it doesn't, you know, everybody goes at a different level. It's funny because when we talk about mental health, when we talk about recovery, when we talk about improving our lifestyle, a lot of the times the words that we use, the acronyms that we use, you know, all these phrases that we use, a lot of it has to do with almost like working out, with exercising. You know, everybody goes at their own pace, right? You go to your gym trainer and you want to start hitting the weights and you want to do the heaviest weights. And they're like, no, you're absolutely not doing this. We got to set a foundation. So you start off small, you start getting the muscle memory, you start getting, you know, the little things, the form down right, and you build off of that. Some people are more advanced than others. You have somebody who's been working out for 10 years, took off a few months, wants to get back into it, and you have the person who's never lifted a weight in their whole entire life. And those people are treated differently. But it's okay because, like you said, the goal is the same. The end game is all the same. The end game is live a healthier lifestyle. Same thing is here. It might be easier for you and me after things that we've gone through to sit back and say, you know what, this is what I need. This is what I'm going through. As opposed to maybe somebody who came in and chimed in for a few minutes, or somebody who looked at your page and it's like, all right, I acknowledge that I feel this way, but it's very hard for me to talk to somebody about this. You know, we've had a lot of great comments about this whole conversation, and it's great to see people being open and vocal about what's going on, but there might be somebody who may not be able to do that just yet, but it's go at your own pace, just like working out at the gym.
And that's just fine. If they're here and they're gaining anything, if they're soaking up any information, that is progress.
Right.
Awareness is one of the biggest first steps you can do is become aware of issues and ways to solve those issues. And just a quick shout out to Mills Too Cool. I think I missed you popping in. Thank you. Olga, thank you for joining us. And Mike the Barber and Dawn of the Living, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is an open mental health conversation. We're breaking stigma by being open, by being vocal about it. I think we're kind of coming full circle with this whole thing.
We are. But, you know, I really appreciate this, man. That, you know, to be able to talk and just have a free conversation, it's great. It's fantastic. I wish that people could see this more often, just all different walks of life. Hopefully down the road, people can talk more in depth about the things that they've struggled with, of where they've come. It's not easy, but it really is refreshing, at least on my part, to be able to see the success stories. Because a lot of times you don't realize what people are going through inside, and they're smiling at you and you don't know what they're feeling inside. And then when you find out how much effort it actually took them to smile, you appreciate it more. Like if somebody gives you a gift, but you see with the lens that they went to get you that gift, it means that much more. So when I know who you are, Tim. We talked briefly. I don't know all the details, but I'm sure, you know, as we reacquaint ourselves and we talk a little bit more, we'll talk about all these things, but again, it's it's nice to have like a couple of my friends go on, a couple of your buddies go on, a couple of your friends go on, and just be able to talk so openly and freely, and the positive comments that are going on, because it becomes a safe place for everyone to be able to express themselves.
Yeah, and just to touch on that, if anybody's looking for a safe place inside your head, there's a page called A Safe Place Inside Your Head. They have like
That's awesome.
350K followers. They just turned into a nonprofit organization, and the main owner, Tanner, is on almost every night on the live feed with open conversation. He's part of the inspiration for this series, well, this show that we're doing right now, and we were on his page. He featured us to help us raise awareness
Right.
to the back and the mental health benefits of that. And he's doing a lot of good things for a lot of small content creators. So check him out if you guys are interested. And let's dip back
I
into
actually
these
really
comments
love
because
this comment right here.
it's from a weary warrior. She says, "I love the narrative of your page and live casts. Every bit is progress. A lot of us feel that if we're not pounding the pavement, we aren't doing good enough. Every little bit is progress."
100%.
Yes, absolutely, Alexis. That is it. You nailed it.
I might just screenshot
Progress.
that because it's so true.
Yeah, I don't want to mess up the live feed, but I can go back. The minds part of the mindset. We have a whole positive mindset that I kind of put together through personal experience, through time in therapy, through study and research on tools that work. And we're constantly growing. We're constantly learning. That's part of the mindset that we're students in life and we're here to learn and everything is a lesson. So that's been hopefully for people who are viewing, the consistent theme on the page is growth. The consistent theme is progress. And we label our growth and progress as success because we're never done growing in life.
Right.
So instead of setting a goal for ourselves and saying, when I get here, I'll be successful, should recognize that the process is your goal. And if you complete the process every day, then you're successful. The process being whatever it is that you do to make progress. If you're doing that consistently, each day you do it, you can check off another day accomplished, another day of success, another day of progress. And the side effect will be that you attain your goals. The side effect will be you're successful with your business if that's what you were working towards. Or the side effect will be better physical health or better physique. Like what I'm doing in here, this is not primarily for the physical benefits. Those are just a side effect. That's a bonus. I'm starting to get a six pack in quarantine because I'm taking care of my mental health. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm just doing it daily. Every day is a new day. One of the mental health tools is wake up in the morning and tell yourself, today is the first day of the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Because that's a positive affirmation that you can make, and there is no internal conflict behind it. That's a true statement. And just to repeat that to yourself in the morning can shift your perspective. Today is the first day of the rest of my life. And I don't know, how do you feel about positive affirmations? Because we talked about that a little bit
I think it's
on our
great.
lives.
I think it's a form of self-confidence. I think the sun is hitting me. I'm in my car because if not, my daughters would be all over me. Like I was telling you, they'd probably be chiming in and telling us that all we have to do is play every day and eat cookies and we'll be fine. But
And
I
that's
think
kind of
that
true.
it, it's partially true. Um,
Kind
Positive affirmation, it's hard. Let's be honest.
of,
If you say something good about yourself or acknowledge something great about yourself, a lot of us were raised and conditioned in a way that you're not humble. You're being too arrogant. You shouldn't be saying those things about
yeah.
yourself. And you know what? That's wrong. That's completely false. It is okay
Yeah.
to acknowledge something that you are good at. Just like it's okay for you to say, you know what, I got to get better at this. Not that you're bad at it,
Yeah.
just there's an area or opportunity, something you can improve on. Just by being able to do that, you should be able to say, you know what, I'm pretty damn good at this. I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we're all still alive right now. Every day is tough. Every day is tough. Every day brings its own challenges. And the one thing that I've known is it's not a sprint, man. It's funny because you hear it all the time. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And throughout that
Absolutely.
marathon, you might find yourself going up hills, going down hills.
I
You
gotta
might
stop you.
go ahead.
This thing's gonna end in 8 seconds by itself. I
All
don't know. We're
right.
getting cut off.
I think it's an
So
hour and we're good.
yeah.